Oh, that's nice. Hello and welcome to. Oh, hang on. Would help if I. Oh, no, that's not the one I want. That's the one I want. Hello and welcome to the Labour Social here on Labour Social. Haha! It is Friday, the eighth of September already. The year is nearly over, Ollie. I'm joined by Ollie Bowler Hat Man. I was being asked earlier today, why are you called Bowler Hat Man when you don't wear a bowler hat?
Well, I do actually have a bowler hat.
Put your bowler hat on. Come on, lads. Get your bowler hat on. That is much better. Now we know why he's called Bowler Hat Man. So how's it going? Now you've missed a couple of these because you were off being president of the world or something.
Yeah, I've had a busy, honestly, a busy year this year. For my sins, and I'm inclined to commit. I must have committed a few. I'm president of JCI UK this year. So that's kept me very, very busy this year. So it's nearly over. I'm gonna have to take it off because it is absolutely boiling.
I'm absolutely roasting, mate. I want to open the window, but I'm on a main road, and I know that there's going to be traffic going past, and it's going to be really noisy. So
I'm just gonna turn my fan on.
I've left it closed, and I'm so hot, and I wish I could just. I wish I could just take my hat off, but I can't. Anyway, so yeah, no tan tonight. Sorry, tantalizing as though it was to have tan on the show. She had to cancel at very much quite last minute. So
when are we going to have the tentacular?
The tentacular, the tentacular spectacular, the tantacular spectacular.
The tentacular.
Well, in a month's time, we're going to be in Liverpool, me and Tan and Femi, and also Phil, for the Labour Party conference, and we're going to be doing a talk, which I'm setting up. I'm setting up an Eventbrite. I was in the middle of doing that, but then I had to stop so I could do this instead. So, is this a swear jar episode? Said David. No. But we have got this is an old Nutella jar, right? This is how many swears that we put in it on. Hang on, I've got to do this for Ollie so we can see it.
Is this this the Christmas
this
Christmas
is the
fun
swear
social?
Jar. Yeah, it goes to the orphans for Christmas. We got an Aid Thompson. Aid, hello. I just got a message off Aid saying 1 sec. That was about 5 minutes ago. Can't hear him yet. He's coming on. No tan. How is that possible in this weather? Well, you know, I'm very pale. What can I say? Why is it September? Why didn't we just get through February? Well, it feels like that. It definitely feels like that. Have we got any aid?
Hello?
Aid.
Oh,
yes, we
there
can
is.
hear him.
There is.
I was just thinking, like, where's my audio gone? I can't see. Couldn't see my mic working, but it seems like it is, so that's good.
You're on.
How is everyone doing?
What would you like to say? I'm all right. How are you, Ollie? Are you all right?
Warm.
Yeah, I'm warm. Are you a bit warm? You're more south than we are. I'm right up in the north of England.
My fucking gooch is its own ecosystem at the moment. It's disgustingly hot in here. Yes, I'm in my cabin as well, which is basically like a.
What's your gooch?
I did a terrible job at insulating this cabin to keep it warm in the winter, but actually it solved neither problem. And now it's freezing in the winter still, but in the summer it's fucking baking.
The worst of both worlds.
Yes.
Yeah.
So go me with the DIY.
Well, enjoy your Indian summer. Is it okay to call it an Indian summer? Am I allowed to call it that?
I think it is okay, but I'm gonna like theatrically call you problematic and give you, because I know you'll feel bad about it. So
I know, I will. So what a week!
Don't be racist, Gray. All right.
I know. I'll try. What a week, mate, guys. We've had the concrete crisis, which the tabloids seem to have forgotten about. The Tories have gone. Oh, look, you know, we've already killed off all the old people.
Can I break out my concrete puns?
In a minute.
Go for
it. They've already taken out all the old people with the COVID. Then they went after the kids and said, right, we're going to drop schools on you and not give you any lunch. Then they thought they'd have a go at people who had a mortgage for a house. And then they thought they'd have a go at people who were renting for and then it feels like they were kind of like running out of people to have a go at. And then they went into this like they have a little ball pit and they have balls with words written on it, and they like pulled one out and it said the disabled, and they went, "Oh, this will be a great wheeze. There's too many people who are disabled. We'll make them go back to work whether they want to or not." And as an incentive,
that's like a Tory classic.
Well, as an incentive, instead of saying, "Well, what we can do is right, if you can work from home in the hours that you can on a part-time basis, you know, with flexible working hours, then you can still have your disability benefit, but also you can have the money that you earn as well on top of that." That will be an incentive. What isn't an incentive is saying you have to work or we're going to take some of your money off you. It's just like, what is going through their sick little minds?
The thing that always infuriates, baffles, bemuses me about that sort of approach is it's always done by top-hatted, monocled cunts who are like, "Oh, your best route to blah 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 is to work hard and get a job and it's always people who've had their whole life fucking handed to them. It's like they're the beneficiaries of nepotism left, right, and center, and they've got the fucking gall to tell other people about, well, if you just work hard enough.
I mean, even if you do, let's say like every single disabled person, you know, goes to work. I don't think that's even going to solve it's not going to solve the economy, is it? I mean, I don't know in the UK alone. I don't know how many sort of, you know, disabled people you'd have. It doesn't even make any economic sense to even approach it from that when you've got so many people who aren't disabled, who aren't in work.
Yeah. And it's also it's sort of hugely opportunistically ignorant also, because clearly the answer there, like I'm not disabled, fortunately, but I don't personally believe that the reason that a lot of disabled people aren't working is because they would hate to work. I'm sure there's a lot of them who would love to work and have interests and things that they would love to pursue and gain employment out of it. Absolutely, they would, like just like everybody does. The problem here, the obvious
opportunity.
Yeah, the problem
it's
that they have
always opportunity.
Opportunity, but also support structures. So that then becomes a slightly harder problem for them to solve. Like that would require them spending money, and they're like, "Oh, no, can't have that. Can't have support structures and clinics and medication and sponsors and like whatever the support is that person might need." They're like, "Oh no, fuck that. No, we'll just tell them that they're lazy and force them to do it." It's like it's not going to end well, lads.
The second it comes to, well, you have to spend this amount of money to do it.
Yeah. It comes back to my age-old frustration of Tory Britain, which is like, you guys need to understand or learn that it takes money to run a country. Like, you might not like that, but that is actually the reality of it. And the longer that you dance around it or try to fit that spherical object through a square hole, you know, it's the longer we end up doing this dance, going around in circles.
And it's all the schools crisis is an exactly that.
Fucking A, yeah.
Anyway, talking of fucking A, it's Scott. Scott is joining the chat. Hi, Scott. He's down there. He's down at the bottom. Hiya. And also, Darren's out there. Daily Blase. I've just sent you a link on WhatsApp. So if you want to join us on the show, you're very welcome to. If there's anyone else in the chat who I have the WhatsApp of, I can send you the address and you can join us on this. So, Scott, how you doing? Are you hot? You're being asked in the questions. Do you think Scott is warm?
I bought something though, right? And it's the best thing I've ever bought in my entire life.
Oh, is it a giant pepper mill?
Is
like
it
what they have in Italian restaurants?
A neck fan.
Okay, that's better than a giant pepper mill. Although I still want a giant pepper mill because I think they're cool.
You have no idea how amazing.
But I've tried to steal one from Italian restaurants in the past, but you can never get out the door with them. Mostly because they're like this big, so it's really hard to fit in my Scouse pocket. I mean, my normal pocket of my normal coat. Did I say Scouse pocket then? Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck is a Scouse pocket? Like, am I?
it's the, what is it, Geordie jumpers?
I've got this.
It's like the bag in Harry Potter that is never ending and holds everything.
Right.
I've got a Scott vest coat, and also I've got this like waistcoat, but I call it a gilet because I'm a pretentious Scouser. and both of them have got pockets. Do you remember Bottom? Do you remember the TV show Bottom?
I know all
Of
about
course.
With Rick May and
Yeah.
Nate Edmondson. Okay. Well, there's a bit where they're on top, they're stuck on top of a Ferris wheel, and they're like, "Oh, we're going to be stuck here for hours." And Eddie just pulls an entire pint out of his inside pocket and starts drinking it. That's the kind of coat that I own. It's like you can fit like 4 bottles of wine in the pockets inside.
I like it.
Absolutely brilliant.
Practical,
Top tip for
stylish.
people.
Yeah.
Daily Blase says he's on his way. Woo! So hopefully
Jolly
we'll be able
good.
to see Darren in a bit more northern exposure to counteract these disgraceful southerners. Scott, are you a southerner?
Yeah, I live in London.
So, but in America you're a northerner, but in the UK you're a southerner.
That's correct. Yes.
But that kind of makes sense because the Democrats in America are more like our Conservative Party. The Republicans are more like the Nazi Party. Whereas in our country,
Oh, the
Right.
crazy party.
Labour, you don't really have any socialist parties or anything like that.
I
You don't have
think
socialism in America, do you?
In
I mean, being
Hitler
called a
said it best.
liberal in American politics is almost like a bad word. You know,
Yeah.
How dare you want to help people, you bastard!
Like, the social health care. What is this? You know, I mean, I remember. You know, if you guys remember, probably about like when Obama was trying to do the Obamacare, Republicans literally went into small towns and told people in small towns how social, like they gave examples of horror stories from here.
Right.
This is what would happen. You know, this is what would happen here if we got this. Scared the living daylights out of them to convince them and gaslight them to believing that social
Isn't that
healthcare
so
would be
depressing?
the worst thing in the world.
The way that you got these people who live in a swamp in Alabama and they keep voting for the Republicans who are only going to look after the billionaires.
Yeah.
And they're so not a billionaire.
But the
Well,
question,
you
the
know.
question that I always come back to is like, are they actually like the Republicans? Are they that stupid, or are they hoping that the voters are? Like, which one are they ideologically indoctrinated and they genuinely think that socialized healthcare is an evil, or
Yeah, they
do they? Well, I don't know. Like,
Well,
don't think they're that
when you say
indoctrinated.
Republicans, sorry, when you say Republicans, do you mean the politicians or the people, the voters?
When I say Republicans, I mean like the politicians.
Yeah, the politicians, they believe that because the pharmaceutical companies that keep the prices high give them donations.
Oh, I see. That's the thing I was missing. There.
Yeah.
Like I say, well,
So-
that's how Ronald Reagan got his start, wasn't it? He used to do like records about the evils of socialized medicine for the pharmaceutical industry.
Right.
That's how he got his start, and that's how he got into politics.
So yeah, I'm sure actually many Republicans probably think it's a good idea, but they are paid not to say that. And yeah.
It's so
works.
like rotten in like by pure definition.
So
It's like,
corrupt.
rot is just ugh.
Yeah.
And the worrying thing is like I think the only reason that it hasn't got that bad here so far yet is like years and tradition. Like if somebody sprung up the idea of like the NHS now, it would be fucking mauled. It'd be destroyed in like a month by tabloid coverage with the similar sort of scare stories that you're talking about.
Yeah.
I agree, but you know, I think we're getting close to where the media here are demonizing the NHS as much as they possibly can by, you know, the being against the striking doctors, and you're always mentioning the waiting times and things like that. You know, failing to report the fact that Brexit probably had a lot to do with losing staff. Failing to report that you know, you have to pay people to motivate them to work. You know, and you can't just stop paying them, stop increasing their wage during a time of inflation. They're gonna get pissed off, and I'm sorry.
Well, I think to be fair, you're missing out one really, really important point there, Scott, which is that, you know, let's just to be fair to the government, they did clap.
Yeah.
They clapped a lot. All right, and
Not
that's
the clap, more like, do you know what I mean?
that's
I was
Means
thinking
a
about
lot.
this. I was thinking about this new generation coming up, though. I mean, that they aren't falling for it. They don't read the newspapers. They can't get a mortgage. They can't. They see what their grandparents had and how easy their grandparents had it. And I am sick to death of people who are like, getting on in years, who live in a massive freaking house, who go on holiday every bloody couple of weeks, go on a cruise, and get a new car every 6 months. And they're like, they haven't worked for 30 years. I was thinking about this. I worked at my dad's shop in Liverpool. He had a carburetor shop. Get a better carburetor in Muirhead Avenue in Liverpool.
Oh man, I'm here for the wordplay. Oh
Yeah, that's some good advertising.
Thank you. Well, my dad had to take the credit for that, but I worked there from when I was 11. Every Saturday, my mates all went to the match, and I was working at the garage, bloody drilling manifolds and fixing gaskets and putting gasket kits together and stuff like this, and putting carburetors on cars.
Oh, bunch.
And so I've been working now, like every year of my life. I've been working for 33 years. I've got fuck all to show for it. I'm in loads of debt. I have no property in the country. The only reason why I've got a magical island in Panama is I fucking won it on a game show. Do you know what I mean? It's not like something that I work towards.
I know what you mean.
So like typical of young people now. I know I'm not even particularly young, but it is just you work and you work and you work. And I have no aspirations to retire, and I look at people who retired in their 50s. They're in like 6 years older than me, and they had enough money to retire on a full salary pension for the rest of their lives. And they're now in their 80s, and they're looking at us going, "Oh, these kids today, they've got it easy with the avocado sandwiches. Let's make their lives really, really difficult." So
they pay £4 for a coffee. They don't deserve anything.
Yeah.
But it comes back to the like the simple story, the sort of self-flattering ego story. Like it's an easier tale for them to tell themselves that they worked hard and got on and bought a house. And actually the reason that you don't have that and the final salary pension and stuff is like we worked hard and that's why we got this place. That's what the next generation has to do because we worked hard. Yeah, it's like it's self-flating, like look at me.
In the 1960s, if you got done for drunk driving, the person who picked, the cop who picked you up was probably drunk. The person you crashed into was drunk. The judge in the court when you were being sentenced was drunk. Everyone was freaking drunk.
I don't know what goes on in Liverpool, but that is not the case in London.
No, in the 60s, back in the day, like, when they were bringing in these laws about seatbelts and not being able to drink and drive, you had people going, "What? I can't have 7 pints to get behind the wheel. This is fascism."
Yeah, and you know what? Those attitudes were still around. So, like, I used to know a guy that worked in a pub in a village near from where I'm from, and he said he overheard somebody at the bar like one Thursday or Friday night, and he was drinking that night and planning on driving home. Somebody criticized him for it at the bar, and he said he was just like, "Look, I'm not going to crash my car. I think we all know that. It's just these youngsters that are tearing around in their Novas." He's like, "These kids today ruining it for the rest of us."
Anyway, I just want to give a big shout out to Johnny Copperhead for the £5 super chat. The GOP makes the Tories look like amateurs when it comes to out and out corruption. That is very true. And Richard S has a question for us. And hello to Darren. Darren, we got Daily Blase.
Hello there. How is everybody?
Doing, He's
going to give us copying me.
Give us a song on your guitar. but first, let's Richard S has asked the question. He's put £5 in the super chat fund. Graham and guys on the thoughts, the way the BBC treat Labour over the Tories, never asking funding questions to Tories. They never call the corruption out. Which, yes, Richard, you say that, and I've noticed that. I've totally noticed that. I don't know if Labour have as much of a problem as before, because I think now that they are very much on this foundation of everything we do has to be, fully funded. Everything has to be fully funded, and they've kind of got this mantra now. I think they don't mind being asked that question as much as they used to, but at the same time, you are right. The hypocrisy is rank. Like the Tories announce things like Brexit, which has cost the British economy over £1 trillion.
like I say, at one time that was the great gotcha. That was the great gotcha. Oh yeah, you've got this really, good policy, but how much is it going to cost? And then that's where they could drag them off.
Yeah.
Answering the question about how good the policy was. And I think that's really the reason why they went down that route. And that started back in the Miliband years, I think it was. I can't remember if it was Miliband or Corbyn who had the first fully funded manifesto.
But Corbyn's manifestos were fully funded.
Yeah,
they were just boring and went on for 100 pages, and no one could be asked reading them.
Tell me about it.
In the middle of winter, when you try to get someone to vote for your political party, and all you've got is a 100-page manifesto on the doorstep when everyone's trying to shut the door because it's freaking cold. Yeah, I'm not the best.
I'm still sore about that free broadband.
That wasn't even in the manifesto.
I know. I think unfortunately we've lost that policy, because that is actually a good policy.
It is.
Amazing.
Like when you see it in South Korea do it, and it adds like something like $2 billion to their economy each year.
Yeah.
Free
broadband and free public transport grows the economy more than it costs you everywhere. Anywhere you do it in the world.
Well, and
it was a good policy, but it got ruined.
Yeah. Childcare,
like all of these are sort of socialist tick boxes, but they're not just helpful policies. They're like statistically mapped and modeled. Yeah. Literally the only reason, like if you think of the Conservatives, and try not to chortle when I say this, but if you think of them as the party of fiscal responsibility, which is what they're supposed to be, they should be fucking chomping at the bit for these policies and go, oh, well, if we spend 3 billion on this or 5 billion on that, that actually comes back to the exchequer in 2 or 3 years, we'll be all the richer for it. So if they're trying to balance the books against the national debt, they should absolutely be looking at these policies.
And going back to
the only reason that these don't get pursued is because it's fuck off the donors. Because they have donors left, right, and centre from big childcare agencies, of which I think Sunak's wife is an investor, from big internet companies, like big tech operations who absolutely do not want to see a socialized free internet all over the country.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's the only reason that these things don't get signed off.
I don't know if there's a recording that still exists of it. It must exist somewhere. But during that election, there was the MP from, I can't remember where he was from, but it was from Sheffield area somewhere. And he was getting ripped to pieces because it was just a poorly thought out, at the time, policy. And I don't think the MP had been properly briefed on like how to talk about it. And this was like the CEO of PlusNet just ripping him to shreds. Like, how are you going to do this? How are you going to fund it? What are you going to do? And he was ripping to shreds on like public radio. And you're like, that's just destroyed the policy forever. But going back to the free public transport, I can't comment for the rest of the country, but I know in South Yorkshire, 1 in, I think, 5 or 6 people turn down a job because they can't get to it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. That is the craziest thing I could possibly imagine. So we've got people who could do jobs and would be good at doing jobs, and then they can't even get to where they need to go. Just want to just jump into the chat for a moment, because who was it? Someone said they loved everyone's content today. I've lost the actual message where it said this because it's got off.
I just caught one a second ago. Was it? Is it from? It's a bit blurred for me. It says Flum Chick. It says the party of fiscal responsibility, the party of fuck all responsibility. I was like, I like it. I'm feeling it.
I like it. But no, you're getting lots of love for your content. So anyone who's made content today, you're getting lots of love for it. So keep up the good work, because we need to fight back against the bastard bloody media. Yeah. The mainstream media. And isn't it funny that the people who go on about the mainstream media are the people who believe it? They're the people who go in for what the Mail tells them, and then they go, the mainstream media, it's awful. And you're like, you're just regurgitating talking points from the Mail. But the fact that the Mail this week called, to go back what we were talking to at the beginning of the show, they said that disabled people were languishing on benefits. That's the language they used. And it makes me so angry. I just want to go out and just like smash things.
I did a TikTok on that earlier on in the week.
If you do an assessment for it with my brother who suffers with severe mental health issues and autism and things like that. To sit through one of those assessments is one of the most degrading and humiliating things you
Tell
can
me
go
about it.
through. And you do that with a person who is not even a medical professional. They're just a trained assessor. And, you know, it's like my brother had been on a certain amount of disability for a long time. And then he had this assessment, and all of a sudden they assess that he should get less money. And it's just like, how is that? In what way does that happen? I don't understand how that happens, because what he hasn't changed over the last 20 years. He's medicated. He does a lot better than he used to. Even though we had he had a wobble a couple of years ago, but you know, this is the sort of thing, and it's like he's never worked ever in his life, and because of his illness and because of his cognitive abilities, holding down a job is almost not an option. Do you know what I mean? And it's like they're going to look at someone like him and go, because I've heard this today. It's like they're going to start targeting the mental health. You know, they're going to target the people who are saying that they're depressed and anxious and they can't work. Those are the people that are going to be like, well, now you just have to suck it up and do some work.
Oh, it's already technically happening.
Makes me worried. Someone like my brother who suffers from something that's, I am not downplaying depression, anxiety. I suffer with myself, but my brother suffers with something a lot more severe and a lot more debilitating. So it's kind of like, are they going to come for people like him and start going, well, I'm sure you can get a telemarketing job. The guy's got autism, severe autism. Like telemarketing isn't going to be the one.
No.
But you know what I mean? Or they're going to shove him in a warehouse packing boxes. You know.
I think, like, I wish I could say that they would.
For somebody who can't, like, I know my brother. You know, he asks a million questions when I ask him to do one thing. It scares me. It scares me. And having been part of that and seeing it, it's frightening. I'm sorry, other people can talk now.
I was just going to say, like, I wish I could say that they wouldn't stoop that low, but I think if it's the choice, if they're backed into a corner of either addressing public services and social structures and spending money where they need to spend it, or blaming people and continuing as they are, I think if mental health issue sufferers are next in line, if they feel 100%. Like the trans debate, if they feel like that's run out of gas with tabloid headlines, they'll absolutely move on to people who are suffering from post-traumatic stress or autism, or so yeah, I think it will, like, I wouldn't put it
I think it's those people that are affected on such a huge scale, because, like, you know, when we talk about mental illness, how many of those people are schizophrenic? How many of those people are psychotic? How many of those people
it's a broad church, man.
And it's an invisible illness as well, so you can't really tell who's got it. And
exactly.
Well, you know,
and how disabling that is to them in regards to being part of a workforce.
Yeah, but what pisses me off is that, well, everything about the Tories really, but the fact that they don't make it an incentive. What they should do is almost the same thing that they had with the New Deal for musicians, which was you could still claim for job seekers allowance at the time whilst earning money, gigging, making music. So you got to a point where that's what the government should be doing. It should be an incentive scheme where you already get your benefits, which have been cut to the bone, by the way. The benefits should be doubled overnight because there's not enough to freaking live on. But like, that should be your basis. And they should, make it easier for people to get into work who are disabled or have problems and accommodate what their problems are. And the government don't. If you are disabled in this country, life is not just difficult, like, it's more expensive to be disabled
very hard.
than to. The best example I can give of that is my partner is deaf. And we have to do regularly, if we want to go to the cinema. So I say regularly, this only happens once every 2 months because it's so expensive for us to do. We have like a 40 or 50-mile round trip to a cinema that has subtitles showing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we can't go and
Yeah.
see the movie. So
And
we have to
that
go
affects your
to
quality of
Newcastle
life.
to go and see a movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we literally, it is one time in the week. There'll be one showing out of all the cinemas that we can possibly get to. And normally, you know, we break our asses trying to get to this bloody screening. But that's just one example. So if Kat wanted to get hearing aids from the NHS, the ones that they provide are shite for her level because she's severely deaf. They're basically microphones that you put in headphones. That's all they are. They just amplify the sound that's outside into your ear, which isn't what she needs. She has a specialist hearing loss where certain frequencies she can't hear at all, you know, without having that put in straight into her ear. And so she has to buy effectively private hearing aids. And I'm complaining about having to buy new glasses because it's like 160 quid because my prescription's so high.
They're like
hearing aids, you're talking over $2,000.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Just so she can do her job.
Yeah, my wife's already worrying about what's been happening already because, like, our eldest, he's on the autistic spectrum disorder, and he's probably got the learning capacity of, I'd say, probably he's 28 now, but he's got the learning capacity of somebody who's 13. Stuff like maths and stuff like that, hasn't got a clue. He just cannot grasp it, and there is no way he will be able to do a job. He just won't be able. When he went to college, that was some sort of, you know, for people with special needs, it was a course where they had to travel train him, and for him to get on a bus, get to college on his own and come home, that's a milestone for him. And also she's starting to worry about me because in 2017, I don't know if you know, but after 30 years of working for council, I slipped on some ice and slipped a disc. I had to have emergency spinal operation, emergency discectomy, remove the disc, and I have horrendous nerve damage, and my mobility is knackered. And to get PIP, I had to fight for some low-level PIP, and when it came to then I was still, after my operation, I was still basically struggling for mobility, and I was having hydrotherapy and it just nothing working. After about 12 months, they had my assessment and said it's not going to get any better. It's not going to get any better because after they showed me X-ray, and they said there's the spinal canal where all your nerves are in. Said it's supposed to be about the size of a 50p piece. Your spinal canal is about the size of a 5p piece. So it's just basically crushing all your nerves. Everything I do in life, standing up or moving about, it's hard work. I'm pretty much housebound, and if I do go out, I go somewhere with my wife, because I know if I go out on my own, I'll probably fall over and hurt myself. So anyway, when she was
Can
hearing
I just
about,
ask, like, is there a surgery or treatment or stem cell anything like in the world, no matter how expensive, is there anything that you found in research that is available that would sort it out or help?
It was in 2017. They said if it don't get right in say about a year, then it's not going to get any better. It's so rare. It was something called Cowdy-Aquina syndrome I suffered with. It's so rare that because me and my wife, we usually go watch Bradford City play, and on that week we were got tickets to go to Wimbledon, to play Wimbledon away, and we'd booked coach, and my wife says, "Oh, I'm not going without you." And I says, "Look, at the time I was stuck in hospital," and I said, "Look, you go and take somebody with you. Just, you can't do it anymore for me now. I'm stuck here in Leeds General." And then she said, then on the way there, she says, "Can you ring your mum up? Because
something's happened. They had to get an ambulance. Now, at the time, my father were in life, still alive. He had dementia and Parkinson's, so he was already frail and memory wasn't the best. So my first thought was, well, it's either my dad's had a fall or my brother's done something stupid to himself. Well, it turned out she had to ring an ambulance for my brother who had slipped his disc, suffered from the same rare thing as me, had the same disc removed that I did. He had 3 operations and he made a full recovery, whereas I didn't. He was just, and there were people at Leeds General coming down and saw these two the brothers, and
what's the fucking chances of that?
Oh yeah.
Right.
It's not hereditary. It's not hereditary either. And the thing is, what made it even more better, the people who picked me up in the ambulance to take me from Bradford Royal Infirmary to Leeds General were the same ambulance that picked up my brother as well. Because reason why I know that is because when we're talking to ambulance bloke and he says, do you know what? It's really strange, is this? Because we picked up a lad from Bradford Royal Infirmary and took him to Leeds General for the same thing. He says, yeah, no, that's my other brother, my other son.
Mm.
But
Wow.
anyway, but yeah, the thing is, when it comes to this, it took me 2 years. We had to fight for everything because, like, then they put me on what's the word they use? Fast track for job search and stuff like that. And
Unreal.
and there were and like for a time that we go to people and they say, the work coach say, well, yeah, I'm not fit for work. I don't know what you're doing here. So they say, just go to your doctor, get a sick note. But then it came to a point where work and pensions wouldn't accept it. They would not accept my sick note. And because my doctor said, well, clearly you're not fit. And they even sent a message to them, don't give a sick note. They will not accept it. And it got to a point where I went for a referral, took it over the phone, and they said, no, you're still fit for work because you can turn on a DAB radio, and also you can read a book for an hour and sit down. That was their process.
That's mad, isn't it?
Oh,
like
absolutely fucking mad.
At what
so
point,
anyway,
can I just ask? Sorry to interrupt. I'm really curious. So, at what point did the government step in and go, "We know better than doctors. We will no longer accept"?
Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah, exactly. Well, anyway, after they did it over the phone, and I got no points, and I got no points for it and all. Not 1 point for all the troubles that I suffer with. I suffer with incontinence as well, because of numbness around my waist. Everything in my life, from washing up to doing slight slip, it absolutely cripples me. Then my wife says, we'll go to a tribunal. And I said, well, why do it? Because something I do, I love watching the select committee meetings, and I watched the work and pensions committee. And I remember when SNP MP Chris Stevens absolutely tore into Chloe Smith. She was the Minister for Works and Pensions at the time. And he was saying, why is it when it comes to tribunals, they overturn most of the denials of about 80% odd. So anyway, after months and months of waiting, my work coach, she was about as much use as a final lift, because like she was there saying, oh, we need to make plans because you're not going to win, oh, well, whatever. Anyway, got the letter back saying overturned. I got the required weight were 15 points, and I got 15 points on alone for mobility. And they said the reason why it's been overturned because the work and pensions didn't give a good enough excuse as to the reason why they did not put down that you have mobility problems. It's all designed to fail.
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
And it's a case of they think, well, after about you go for your review.
I'm so sorry, Darren.
Oh, don't worry about.
And the thing is, absolutely horrific that you've had to go through that, mate.
Oh yeah, and what makes it even worse, the thing is, it put more of a strain on my wife because she could see what I have to go through, and it put more of a strain. And I still believe, because like now she has heart condition because of all the stress, and because she has to deal with my son as well. She's his care as well, and she has to take me there. And it got to a point where the woman who was my work coach, she wouldn't allow her in the room because she would just give her a load of abuse because she just didn't care. She just didn't care. But it came at a point where now.
So these are people who have to assess you whether you're fit for work, and they're not medically qualified in any way, shape, or form. Is that right?
No, they're not. Yes. No, they're not.
They're admin staff.
Yes.
It's kind of like darkly
box ticking.
It's darkly hilarious and almost sort of ironic that
This is
somebody who's not
Daniel
really
Blake,
qualified.
isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, can I just pose a question just on the overall subject, though? When we talk about right now, we're talking about the disability and the. Do you think this is just a sort of ploy to keep people sort of distracted? It is kind of like a red meat thing again for the Tory hardcore as we run up into a general election.
I think that's a pretty good question. I think you might be onto something there.
Yeah. You know, how is this all of a sudden this week the subject?
Yes.
It was immigration 2 weeks ago. This is everything that when you speak to a horrible Tory person and they complain about disabled Black lesbians, right? This is the sort of thing that they love. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, put them people to work.
I think they're looking for anything. I think they are.
I think they're desperate.
They're desperate. Yeah, they are right. Looking for absolutely anything they possibly can. I think they know, and I think it's damage control they're trying to do desperately. But
I think they have a bucket full of balls with words on it, and they just pick them out. The minorities in there, and they just pull them out, and they decide which minority they're going to be horrible to from one day to the next. Jez Hunt, thank you very much for your £5 super chat. Sorry, we were letting Darren tell a story there. But this relates to what Darren was talking about. Sick people aren't languishing on benefits. They've confused them with Dorries and the monarchy. Do they say the same of pensioners? And that's such a great point, Jez, because, you know, if we had a left-wing rag, if it existed, and it just had to go at pensioners all the time, as I like to call them, boom lords, they're boomers who are landlords, boom lords, and saying they're just languishing, they don't work. They haven't worked for 30 years, and yet how can they afford a brand new car? They haven't worked for 30. And did they do enough work in the 30 years that they were actually working for to, you know, pay for their lifestyle 30 years hence? But they had everything given to them on a plate. And I know that 1 in 5 pensioners live in poverty, and that breaks my heart. But at the same time, 1 in 5 pensioners are millionaires. And I just look at that, and look, my mum is 74 years old and still working full time in a community college and looking after my dad who has dementia. So I have very, very little sympathy for fuckers who go, oh, well, you know, I worked really hard till I was 52 and then took early retirement, and now I can afford several cruises a year because I worked hard. And I'm like, you didn't work harder than my mum. I'm sorry, you just didn't.
No, exactly.
It's just luck. Dumb fucking luck.
Well, yeah, it's some city slicker who, you know, worked for a bank and they worked 17-hour days for a few years and got some really nice bonuses and was able to eventually retire at 52. Do you know what I mean? I'm not retired. I have no idea when that is going to happen.
I'm not retiring in 8 years, mate. I guarantee.
Right, exactly. It's
because like after my operation, to be fair to my employees, Bradford Council, they kept my job open for me for a year. But when it came clearly that I would not be able to do the job that I was doing, they tried to put me, see if they could find other places for me, and all they could, and things were tight then, and all they could offer me were a job at some sort of library. Now, as somebody who enjoys reading, I thought, oh, it might just be my thing, but I went up, have a chat with them, and they said, you'll be finding yourself on your feet, up moving around here and there. I thought, no, I can't really do that. So in the end, Yeah, I said, so in the end up, they let me go. And do you know how much I got payment for finishing after 30 years?
30 years.
Just over £6,000.
Fucking hell.
Nothing.
Jesus Christ. And the older generation are like, well, you know, I left on a full salary pension. Aren't I clever? Everyone
They
who bought
only took the first 20 years. They ignored the last 10.
Jesus Christ, man. It's stacked against us. It really fucking is, isn't it? 30 years work and they give you $6,000. That's not gonna last you 6 months.
Yeah. I just, my wife, she wanted to go on holiday with the family with my son to Silo. So I said, go on, take it. Use that. And then she says, why don't we go to Fuerteventura? And we spent a week there, and we just spent a week waiting for the sunset on the beach to watch the sunset, and probably one of the best holidays I've ever had. I thought couldn't have done anything better with that $6,000. Got a well through full of memories out of it, but $6,000 for 30 years back-breaking work.
Bloody hell.
And I were doing lifting all sorts of stuff I shouldn't really have been doing. And remember early days of binnings, you know, we had the silt bins, all that sort of stuff, you know, full of silt. And the guy who was going to operate me, he did the MRI scan, and he says, have you done a lot of heavy lifting? And I says, over the last 30 years, and he says, yeah, I can tell your back is absolutely knackered.
Jesus Christ. Pete's Music in the chat is saying, much respect to you, Darren. My partner and I had a battle to get her on the correct level of PIP. Horrific experience. I had to retire early on a modest pension to care for her. And this is the reality. This is the lived reality of pretty much everyone who isn't of the golden generation, who have 90%. Let's call them the boom lords. The boom lords have 90% of the world's of the country's wealth. Like, what do we do about it? When I came over with some refugees from Ukraine last year, we were driving through the UK because we were dropping her off and her family off in Stockport, and she asked me when we stopped at her services, she said, how do the old people have so much money in this country? And I'm like, what? Yeah, it was like a weird question to ask. And she said, I keep seeing these old people in brand new BMWs. How does that work? All the people in my country who are old are poor, and we have to look after them because we're the only ones working. And I'm like, the Tories, mate, triple lock pensions.
Like, it all goes back to the banks, though, man. Like, if the banks hadn't have fucked up in 2007, 2008, then bonds, the interest on bonds wouldn't have gone really low. And then they wouldn't have, like, the older generations wouldn't have pulled their money out of bonds. Like, traditionally, you get, like, pensioners would invest in bonds, and indeed pensions invest in bonds, which is actually interestingly why the Truss Kwarteng mini budget almost sent the pension sector, like, tipping over. But push that aside for a second. Because the interest rate paying out on bonds was so low after the 2008 crash, millions of pensioners were like, well, look, I've got my pension. I've got, like, I don't know, 50 grand coming in a year. What can I invest that in that's going to pay me something resembling what I used to get from bonds? And so they bought up, like, 1-bed, 2-bed flats and then rented them out because people were like, look, I'm a financial advisor. If you want to make X amount of money, bonds that's old news. Fuck off bonds. Yeah, buy yourself a 1-bed flat.
It'll go up like 10 times in value.
Exactly.
So I put the cat amongst the pigeons this week. I put on Facebook, I think that you should only be able to get a mortgage on a house that you actually live in. And oh my God, like, suddenly, like, Facebook came alive. Normally when I tweet something or put something on Facebook, I get like 2 replies. Suddenly 119 replies. And it was just this war going on in my chat between the people who rent and are like, landlords are the spawn of Satan. And landlords going, I'm not a bad landlord. It's a proper job. And I keep saying, it's not a proper job. It's really, really not a proper job. It's just not. It's not. Getting someone else to pay your mortgage off the back of their labor, off the back of their hard work, is not a proper job.
So I'm going to throw a cat amongst the pigeons now. I sit somewhere in the middle, which will not surprise Tan in that I'm somewhat like I like to placate. I like to be, somewhere in the middle
Such
ground.
a centrist.
Centrist.
Yeah.
Oh no!
Centrist scum.
This is it.
Are you
you
an
can hear the
extreme
clacking
centrist?
of the typing.
I'm going to play the
centrist.
I'm going to play the centrist dad like I'm a dad as
Say
well. So
good day
I'm
to
Oh
literally-
right, you're trying to Shaq Tan too, yeah?
Oh god, centralist dad. I haven't heard that expression for a couple of years. It's all coming
But-
flooding back
Like
now.
yeah.
I feel like we're
Hear me out.
performing some eldritch summoning at the moment.
Here's the thing: is that in every developed nation and economy, there are landlords. So it is just a fact of life that in most like first world countries, you're going to get people who buy property and then rent it out. Now, the problem that we have in this country is a stock restriction. They're not building enough houses. Nobody's built enough houses for about 20, 25 years.
Yep.
The reason that they don't build enough houses or they don't greenlight enough land to have developers build houses is because they've worked out, and I think this sort of started around the Blair years. I don't know. I'm happy to be corrected on that. But the reason that they don't is because they worked out that the people that fucking vote are the older generations. And if they don't greenlight the house building, if they restrict the stock and they make the older generations who vote richer with their bungalows and their 3-bed houses and their 2 or 3 bed flats down on the South Coast, if they make these people richer, those people will then sit back and go, you know what? Things have been pretty good for the last 5 years. I might vote for this lot again. And so it's just been perpetuating and perpetuating. And now we're so deep down the hole. It's like, what can you actually do to fix the housing crisis now? You could have a wartime effort of house building and build 4 million homes.
Well, that's it. We
And
can't just build our way
immediately-
out of it.
Yeah,
We can't build
a
a way out of it. We've got to tackle landlords.
But then you would propel like millions of other people into negative equity. Like, we're so fucked. I don't think anyone really truly understands how fucked the housing crisis is. It's like, oh, we should build more homes. Well, no, then you're going to fuck over the other half of the country.
I always say it's not a. We've been in a housing crisis for years. It's no longer that. It's a housing disaster.
Yeah.
That's what we are. It's what we've
absolutely
sleepwalked into, and no one wants to admit it.
Well, we haven't
Yeah.
walk into it. People have gone, yeah, this is great because they bought a house for £2.50 in 1971 and now it's worth £500,000 and they all think they're the fucking Wolf of Wall Street. Like, oh my God,
mate.
I'm such a great investor. I know how to invest. And it's like, no,
Yeah.
this just happened. You are a lucky bastard.
You know
and
what?
This
You know-
happened. It's not going to happen again. You buy a
You know what
house now for
happened to-
250 grand. It is not going to be worth 2 million in 30 years' time. I fucking guarantee it.
Here's my favorite trick I like to ask for people like that. They go, oh, well, you should just do what I did when I was 25. I bought a 2-bed house or 2 up, 2 down. It was me and your mother and your little brother and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, cool. Here's a challenge for you, Gramps. Go on fucking Rightmove. Look at that house right now and see how much that's going for, or the last time it was sold. And then work that out. How much is that versus the national like average salary? And then tell me how the fuck I'm going to accumulate that money, you daft cunt.
You know what's really
Alan
depressing?
Webber in the chat is saying there are over 1.1 million homes with planning approval but aren't being built to avoid depressing prices. I don't think you're wrong, Alan. I
You
mean,
know what's really depressing this week? I had
Everything.
someone add me on LinkedIn, and he was this young kid who he then sent me this video, and he's just like, "Oh, hi, yeah, great to meet you. Yeah, I would love to sort of have a meeting with you." And he's like, so I'm getting into property developing and being a landlord, and I'm buying my own
not a proper
properties, and
job.
and I'm like,
no, but I put
But
this
the
on
kids are just
Facebook,
like-
and then someone thought they'd have a pop at me and say, "But you have an island in Panama, Graham." And I'm like, first of all, I didn't have a mortgage on it because I won it in a game show. Secondly, an indigenous family live on the island full time, and I pay them to live there. It's like the opposite of these
I thought you were going to say you were going to
landlords.
charge them rent.
No, I don't. I pay them to bloody live there. I'm like, if you're going to make me sound like a hypocrite for saying that you shouldn't be able to get a mortgage on a house that you do not live in, come on. Like,
I was going to be, that's very colonialist of you, Graham.
Yeah.
I am the worst. I know, but it's available on Airbnb if people want to stay in Airbnb, but we only have about bloody 5 people stay at each year. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
It's
have to say I feel incredibly lucky because the house that now let's say where my laptop is, it's where my grandma and granddad's back hole used to be, where they have the old
Sorry, your gran
in-
and grandma's what?
back hole.
Your grandmother's back hole.
Yes.
What the hell?
Yes, God
I was-
rest her
This got
soul.
quite dark quite
God
fast.
rest her soul.
Tell me about your
And,
grandmother's back hole. Is
I'm
that,
so
is that
glad.
a Yorkshire expression?
Yeah, it's where you have the
Oh, yeah.
coal. Where you put all the coal in.
Oh,
I'm so
right,
glad.
okay.
Oh, the coal. Oh,
Yeah.
Look at it.
Yeah, back
Face.
now it clicks for the Southerners.
Okay.
Yes,
That
yes.
makes a lot of sense.
I'm so glad that you picked up on that there, Graham, because I was like, the back, like, am I?
No,
What
the
the fuck?
back hole.
Back
My
coal, you know,
grandmother's
get the coal
That
man in and
was a precious
we don't
cultural
have
moment,
that
I feel,
Monday.
for us
We don't have that.
Northerners.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Watching
Well,
watching
thing
the
is-
confusion of the Southerners going.
Tell
Yeah.
me about
Let
it.
me tell you about my grandma's back hole. Will you
Yes.
now?
Yes, exactly.
Sorry,
Oh,
Darren,
Well,
we
anyway.
interrupted. What were you gonna say?
But anyway, when my grandma, God rest her soul, passed away, my granddad wanted to sell the house. It was in the late 90s. So me and my wife picked up 32,500 in them days, and we've just about paid it up. And
Oh, well
all
done.
is on. So I feel incredibly lucky. I don't have to go through.
Yeah.
The only thing is, I get the feeling I'm going to have my 3 kids living here forever. Well, at least 2 of them living here forever, because
Yeah.
they're not going to find
That's
any other
fine,
property.
because you have that property, and then that's in your family. Your family, you're not renting it out to some 20-year-old.
No, this is my home.
ripping
It's
all
where
their
I'll
money
die
away
in.
from them,
Yeah.
you know.
But Scott, you're absolutely right. I think that there should be an opportunity for young people when they rent to actually make something out of that rent. At the moment, you can't say, I paid my rent on time for the last 10 years, give us a mortgage.
Yeah,
You
nothing.
can't do that, which I
Yeah.
find absolutely repugnant and ridiculous, because you're paid someone else's mortgage if you're renting and it is a buy-to-let. They have basically put you in that house, so your industry, your labor pays for their second house or third house or fourth house. I'm like,
But
that isn't
like
fair.
devil's advocate, that is only the situation because there's insufficient house building. The real problem, like landlords, by and large, are a symptom of a lack of house building. If you built enough
It's
houses
a
that people could
symptom.
build, that buy into,
They're not the disease, then they're the symptom of the
And
disease.
it's not just that we haven't been building houses, we've been building the wrong type of houses as well.
yeah.
Haven't
Like
been
Building
building
landlords
the
are like they get
flats.
a rough ride.
Yes.
Like sometimes quite rightly, like there's a lot
Yes.
of shitty ones, right? I've had shit landlords. I'm sure everybody on this call has.
Privately educated boomer landlord. They're my
Yeah.
favourites.
But there are there's okay landlords, like just like there's okay bankers, like
And okay
there's proper-
boomers.
there's and mate, I'm here
See
for
what
the
I did there?
wordplay all day, Graham. I keep telling you this.
True.
But yeah, the problem, the wider problem, the broader problem is a total lack of like wholesale house building. If you solve that, if you gave people the option of, look, I'm going to buy this house for, let's be really fantastical, I'm going to buy a family home in the home counties for 40 grand or 50 grand, that would be incredible. And then I'd have the choice out of like, oh, I don't want to buy a house just yet. Let's see how this job works out. Or maybe I'm going to do a contract in this place, go over and work there. I don't want to buy a house. I just want to rent there. See, like, get a feel for the place first. That's how it should work. And that would be fine for landlords to operate in that kind of paradigm. But we don't work or live in that paradigm. We live in a world where they've restricted it for the reasons that I outlined.
We've got a message in the chat. First of all, George, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. How was it ever thought that the property market was ever sustainable? It astounds me that people assume that property prices can escalate indefinitely, which, yeah, good point, George. And also, Richard Marsden, just above that, is saying 96% of new flats in Manchester are owned by foreign investors and are empty, paying double council tax, though 100,000 on the waiting list for social homes.
You know what?
That is a huge problem. You look at Belgravia in London, where you have these Russian oligarchs owning these properties with nobody in them. And along with you can't get a mortgage if you don't actually live in the house. You can get a business loan. That's different. You can't get a mortgage. That's the new rule. Another rule, use it or lose it. If there's no one living in a property for more than 18 months, that's it, you lose it. You get a warning letter after 12 months. Hey guys, you got to have someone living here. After 18 months, that's it, it's gone. Otherwise, you have these properties that are rotting from inside because there's no one living there, and the people who own it
Why
don't
not?
care.
Grew up in a townhouse in Belgravia, and I got to go over there a few times. And
Sorry, you grew up in a townhouse in Belgravia?
a friend of mine did.
Oh, sorry, I was going to say you don't sound like you did.
No, she doesn't either. She's American, but she grew up there, and then they sold it, and they sold it for, I think it was 3.2. It's an insane.
3.2 pounds.
Yes, three
Yes.
pounds 20 pence.
£3 20 pence. Oh, thank God
Yeah.
for that.
Do you know, I was in Manchester a couple of weeks ago,
I'm sorry.
and we were just wandering around. and I
Yeah,
was looking
why
at,
were
like-
you in Manchester when you could have come to Yorkshire?
Or you could have
I
come
wish
to
one had
Liverpool
been
or
Yorkshire.
Durham.
I went to Liverpool. I've not been to Yorkshire yet, but I would like to get there next. But we were
beautiful.
walking around Manchester, and I looked up at like these nice apartments and stuff, and there was a sort of canal
Loads
thing
of them.
there, and I was like, "This is amazing!" Like, I'm always told, if you can't handle property in the south, you should just move up north. I'm like, okay, well, let's have a play with this idea. So I'm sat there with my coffee, googling, and I'm on Rightmove. I said to my girlfriend, I was like, "Guess how much a fucking 2-bed flat is here?" And she's like, "Oh, like she used to go to uni in Manchester, so her frame of reference for all of this is about 20 years out of date, and she's thinking it's still like luda cheap up there. So she's like, I don't know, 2-bed flat, 130, and I'm like, 400 fucking grand, like it's insane. It's like London prices now.
Well, no,
I'm like-
actually, it's nowhere near London price, to be honest.
400 grand, you
Flat
could
in
get,
London,
you could
it's
get
going to cost you at
flat in
least
London.
$750 now. So, but to living up north and the wages, the wage, etc. Yes, that's a lot of money for an apartment in Manchester. 100%.
Aid, you never told me your girlfriend was in Manchester.
Yeah, man.
I'm a Manchester alumni.
Are you? Wait, you went to
Yeah.
uni in Manchester, did you?
Yeah,
I wonder if you
Oh.
knew
I
that.
might have known your girlfriend.
This would be really weird if you had
This would be very
known
weird.
my girlfriend.
It'd be very strange if you. Actually, I won't say it out loud.
We could be custard cousins.
Oh my god! Don't say it. Don't. If you say it, it becomes real.
No, she's probably a bit younger than me.
She's 41, so she would be.
Ah, no, she would have just got there, I think, the year after I left.
Yeah.
Oh, well, never mind.
Never mind. It was fun.
I've never heard that term before in my entire life.
Really?
Never heard that before.
It's a very
Custard
funny one to
cousins.
use.
That's
Especially at a wedding.
Yeah. Right, guys. I'm gonna have to jump off in a sec, man. I'm going.
Oh, shit. It's actually 4 minutes past 10.
Yeah, we've
Oh,
been
sorry.
gassing away
Yep,
for an
Here we
hour.
are. We
Thank
are.
you for letting me.
So
come
hot.
on.
Hot room.
I need one of these fans that the Scott's got. I need to.
Yeah,
So
I'm very
amazing.
jealous.
Sweating like a bastard here.
I've
I'm
just
very
got an
jealous.
open window on top of me, so I'm fine.
This,
Why don't you,
I bought a neck fan. I
why don't you
actually
take
walked
your-
around in public with this today. I did not care how stupid I looked.
Why don't you take your t-shirt off, Gray? If you're hot.
Because no one needs to see that.
Oh, have you never been to Yorkshire? I mean, come
No.
up
No, I
north.
haven't.
There's thousands of them.
I'm just thinking,
Yes.
I'm thinking from a content and a super chat perspective, like maybe a couple of.
No
£5
one wants to
super
see that. Aid.
Why
No
not?
one wants to see
chats.
that.
Let's turn this into some sort of weird, fucked up political OnlyFans arrangement.
What's this? See what?
See Graham without his shirt. He's very hot, so if he takes
Oh,
his
Graham
shirt
without a
off,
shirt.
yeah.
I had
Don't
this
get
when I
me
went to bloody
excited, guys. Don't get me
Ginger
all
Island
riled
with
up, okay? I'm
Marcus Allshorts. He was constantly trying to get me
I'm
naked
alone,
on the
guys.
camera, and I'm like,
That's not fair.
Marcus, stop it! And he's like, no, that would be really funny. I'm like, if I was a woman and you were trying to get me to do this, it would be so wrong. Just because
Yeah.
I'm a man doesn't make it any less wrong. Stop
You're
it.
right.
I haven't made that suggestion. I just want to make that very clear. I haven't made that suggestion. I looked at it.
Someone suggested that I get sunburn from a light bulb, which is actually true. The last time I took my top off was in 2002 in Vietnam, and
You've been wearing a top ever since.
I literally wearing a top. This is actually a tattoo. Because I got psoriasis. I got psoriasis, and it stayed with me for about fucking like 3 months or something. It was horrific. I've never had it since because I've never taken my top off since. True
Wow.
story. I'm too ginger to take my top off.
See. Okay, well.
I'm one of
Well,
those
on that
weirdos
note, guys, I'm gonna go.
I like shower fully clothed. Yeah, Scott's like, oh fuck this now.
I gotta go
out.
now. Yeah.
Scott was going to stay on for a little bit if the shirt had come off. but
Yeah.
now
Oh,
that
I wouldn't have gone anywhere. I'd be here. Like Graham would tell nope.
I love the idea that there's actual like genuine, serious like political minds tuning into the chat, and now like
Thinking, well, this is going to be a very good intellectual labor conversation.
Yeah, I mean,
anyone who's tuned into the Labour Social on a Friday night knows that it always descends into this.
I mean,
kind of
what if we had
Chaos.
grandma's old custard cousins?
Yes, back old centurist granddad.
coal hole? Apparently, not a hole, coal hole.
All complain that we can't afford our rent.
I feel at some point, Graham, we've got to get you over into like a pub. We've got to do like your pubcast again.
Oh God, yeah! I want 3 blokes in the pub. Let's do that again.
Yeah, we've got to get you over to Yorkshire in a proper Yorkshire pub.
Well, me, you, and Phil can meet up because you're only down the road from Phil, so Yorkshire's not that big, is it? No, I'll come over. I'll get the train down. You pick me up from Scunthorpe, or I don't know. What are those Yorkshire places that are awful?
From Scunthorpe. Oh no! Oh near, lads. Oh near.
Is Scunthorpe Lincolnshire or is it Yorkshire?
Not a real place.
Yeah, Scunthorpe's Lincolnshire. Yeah.
Is it okay?
He's not on the right side. The line.
Helen Wilkes has just given a £2 super chat and says, "Don't do it." I don't know what it is that she doesn't want us to do.
I don't think she wants you to take your top off, Graham.
Don't do it. She's given me £2 to not do something, so I'm definitely not going to do anything else.
I like that.
But yeah, Aid, if you want to get off, mate, then that's fine. I'm going to stay on for a little bit. What are you guys' schedules like? I was going to just say maybe you could like knock this on the head at about 10:30 because we literally haven't talked about politics much.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get off as well.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Well, do you want to call it a day?
Yeah, because I got to work tomorrow. I'm working in a salon tomorrow, so
What are you doing in a salon tomorrow?
I'm cutting hair.
Oh yes, that's right. Do you know when you said salon? For some reason, I thought of a tanning salon. I thought you were going to be like putting people into these like UV beds and closing the
on a day that's going to be sunny and 32 degrees outside.
Yeah.
I think the tanning salon is going to be very quiet.
Mm.
So
I'm going to be in the barbershop.
If
20 people's heads.
When I come down to London in a couple of weeks for the Rejoin March, can you are you going to shave me head? Can you come and shave me head? Having me clippers down.
You don't need to bring clippers. I have clippers. I'm a barber.
Brilliant. Let's meet up in the protest, in the march, on the stage.
I will shave your head in
shave my
in the middle of
my
the
head.
road. Okay, no problem. My clippers are cordless.
I miss my long flowing ginger locks very much, but
right, guys,
do what you gotta do. I'm out of Bacardi Spice, so let's call it a night. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Aid. Thank you very much, Ollie Bowler Hat Man. Thank you to Estrella, Darren, and to Scott. Thank you so much, and everyone in the chat and the super chat. We will be back on Monday morning at 9:30 with Morning Brew with myself. And in the meantime, there will be videos going up of me and also of Phil Morehouse, as long as he's not too ill, to make Labour Vision on Sunday. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But in the meantime, thank you for watching. Hello, good evening, and goodbye.